The massive alien ships came out of nowhere. One moment, space near Earth was empty. The next moment, 300 giant warships floated there. They looked like crystals made of light, beautiful and terrible at the same time. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was twice as tall as any human, with gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes were completely black, and when he spoke, his mouth parts clicked together like an insect. He had conquered 17 different worlds. Earth would be number 18. He looked at the blue and green planet below him. His officers stood around him waiting for orders. They all thought the same thing. This would be easy. "Look at them," Vexthor said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "They still use rockets, chemical fuel pushing them through space. How primitive." His second-in-command, a creature named Krell, made a sound that was their version of laughing. "Their space stations are made of metal, sir. Simple steel and aluminum. One shot from our plasma cannons would turn them to dust." Vexthor walked to the large window of his bridge. All 4 of his arms moved as he talked. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them they have 1 day to surrender. If they refuse, we take everything." Down on Earth's moon, Captain Lisa Monroe watched everything happen. She sat in Luna Base, humanity's main defense station on the moon. Her screen showed her all 300 alien ships. She could see every detail. The aliens weren't trying to hide. "Captain, we're getting a message from the alien fleet," said Lieutenant Jake Phillips. He was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and nervous eyes. This was his first real crisis. "Put it on the main screen," Monroe said. The screen lit up with Vexthor's face. The computer translated his clicking language into English. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Vexthor of the Craxian Empire. Your planet has resources we need: water, minerals, and organic matter. You will give them to us. You have 24 hours to surrender. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities and take what we want anyway." The message ended. The room was quiet. Everyone looked at Monroe. She stood up slowly. Monroe was 40 years old, with gray starting to show in her black hair. She had been preparing for this day for 10 years, ever since humans first learned they weren't alone in the universe. "Send a message to Admiral Coleman on Earth," she said. "Tell him the Craxians just made their first mistake." "What mistake?" Phillips asked. "They gave us 24 hours, Monroe said. She almost smiled. "That's more time than we need." Back on the Craxian flagship, Vexthor was studying Earth's defenses. His computers counted 90 human ships. Most of them were cargo vessels made for carrying supplies, not fighting. The humans had added weapons to them, but it looked rushed, sloppy. "This is amusing," Vexthor said. "Look at this ship here." He pointed at one human vessel on his screen. They attached weapon systems to the outside with, "What is that material?" His science officer looked closer. "It appears to be adhesive tape, Admiral, a primitive bonding material made from polymers." The bridge crew made their clicking laugh sounds. "Tape!" The humans were holding their warships, together with tape. "Sir," Krell said, "their military broadcasts are not even encrypted properly. We can hear everything they say." "Let me hear," Vexthor said. The speakers filled with human voices. They sounded panicked, confused. Orders were being shouted. Some voices were arguing about what to do. It was chaos. "They don't even have a unified command structure," Vexthor observed. "Different groups of ships answering to different leaders. No coordination." On Earth, Admiral Bill Coleman sat in a bunker deep underground. He was an older man, 60 years old, with white hair and sharp blue eyes. Around him sat his best officers. They could hear the aliens listening to their fake communications. "Are they buying it?" Coleman asked. Commander Ashley Turner nodded. She was 35, brilliant, and had spent 5 years working on Earth's secret defense project. "Every word, sir. They think we're in complete panic." Coleman turned to another officer. "How's Project Mockingbird?" "Ready to go, Admiral. The Craxians won't know what hit them. 10 years ago, a small alien probe had crashed in Siberia. The world's governments had kept it secret. They studied it, learned from it, and built new things based on what they found. The public never knew. Even most of the military didn't know, but some people knew. People like Coleman and Monroe. They had been getting ready for this day. In space, Vexthor continued watching the humans scramble. Their ships were moving into defensive positions around Earth. It was almost sad. They formed a line between Earth and his fleet, as if 90 small ships could stop 300 warships. "Should we attack now, sir?" Krell asked. "Why wait 24 hours?" "No," Vexthor said. "Let them have their day. Let them say goodbye to their world. It's the honorable thing to do. Besides, I want to see what they try. It might be entertaining." He walked around his bridge, all forearms moving as he talked. "In my experience, every species reacts differently to conquest. Some beg, some try to negotiate, some fight hopelessly. I wonder what humans will do." "According to our files, humans are stubborn," his intelligence officer said. "They have a history of fighting against impossible odds." "Every species thinks they're special," Vexthor replied. "Everyone thinks they'll be the ones to stop us. They're always wrong." On the moon, Monroe was busy. She had messages coming in from all over the solar system. Mars colony was ready. The asteroid miners were in position. The secret fleet hidden behind Jupiter was powered up. "Captain," Philip said, "shouldn't we tell people? The civilians, they don't know what's really happening." "They know enough," Monroe said. "They know aliens are here. They know we're going to fight. They don't need to know how." She looked at the countdown clock. 23 hours left. Dr. Katie Chen called from her laboratory. Her face appeared on Monroe's personal screen. "Captain, the package is ready." "You're sure it will work?" Monroe asked. "I've tested it 1,000 times. The Craxians use a hive mind system for their fleet coordination. All their ships are connected. That connection is their strength, but it's also their weakness." "And they won't detect it?" "Not until it's too late. It looks like normal communication. Static, background noise. They'll never notice it spreading through their systems." Monroe nodded. "Good work, Doctor." As the hours passed, more human ships appeared. They came from Mars, from the asteroid belt, from the moons of Jupiter. They were ugly ships built for work, not war. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, research ships. All of them had weapons welded, bolted, or yes, even taped to their hulls. Vexthor watched them gather. By hour 18, the humans had assembled 150 ships. Still only half of his fleet's number, still tiny compared to his warships. "They're brave," he admitted. "Stupid, but brave." "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're intercepting a transmission from their leader." Admiral Coleman's face appeared on their screen. He looked calm. Too calm. "Admiral Vexthor," Coleman said, "we've considered your offer. We have a counter-proposal." Vexthor made the clicking sound of laughter. "You're in no position to make proposals, human." "Leave now," Coleman continued as if he hadn't heard. "Take your ships and go. This is your only warning." The Craxian bridge exploded with laughter. The clicking sounds filled the air. Vexthor laughed loudest of all. "Did you hear that?" he said to his crew. "They want us to run. These primitives with their taped-together ships want the Craxian Empire to flee." He opened a channel to Coleman. "Human, you amuse me. I haven't laughed this hard in years. Enjoy your last 6 hours." The transmission ended. Vexthor was still laughing. He didn't notice the small smile on Coleman's face just before the screen went dark. He didn't see Monroe on the moon, giving quiet orders to hidden ships. He didn't detect the virus that Dr. Chen had already slipped into his fleet's communication system, disguised as harmless background static. 6 hours. That's all the time humanity needed to spring the greatest trap in military history. And Vexthor was still laughing, never suspecting that he had already lost. Admiral Bill Coleman stood in the war room deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain. The walls were lined with screens showing every human ship, every alien vessel, and every secret weapon humanity had built over the past 10 years. His officers worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew what was coming. 5 hours left. Coleman said to the room. Status report. Commander Ashley Turner stood up. She had bags under her eyes from 3 days without sleep. Project Mockingbird is fully operational, sir. 60 stealth frigates are in position around Mars. The Craxians haven't detected them. How is that possible? Asked General Frank Lopez, Coleman's second in command. Their technology is supposed to be hundreds of years ahead of ours. Turner pulled up a hologram of one of their secret ships. We covered them with a special material we developed from the crashed probe. It bends sensor waves around the ship. To the Craxian scanners, there's nothing there but empty space. Coleman nodded. What about the virus? Dr. Chen reports it's already in their system. It's spreading through their fleet network but staying dormant. When we activate it, every Craxian ship will lose coordination at the same time. On the moon, Captain Monroe was having a different conversation. She stood, in a room with 20 of Earth's best pilots. These men and women had been training in secret for 5 years. They knew how to fly ships that weren't supposed to exist. You all know the plan, Monroe said. The Craxians think our ships are weak. They think we're desperate. They're about to learn differently. Lieutenant Amy Foster raised her hand. She was 28, small, with red hair and green eyes that showed no fear. Captain, what if the stealth systems fail? What if they see us coming? Then we improvise, Monroe said. Humans are good at that. The Craxians follow strict battle plans. They do what their computers tell them. We do what needs to be done. Captain Paul Rodriguez was at Mars, sitting in the cockpit of his stealth frigate. Around him floated 59 identical ships, all invisible to enemy sensors. His crew was nervous but ready. Remember, Rodriguez said over the comm, we only get one shot at this. When those Craxian shields drop, we have maybe 30 seconds to deliver our payload. Miss that window and Earth falls. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Sam Cooper, checked his systems for the 100th time. Quantum torpedoes armed and ready, Captain. These babies will pass right through their shields like they're not even there. If the science team is right, Rodriguez added. They're right, Cooper said. They have to be. Back on the Craxian flagship, Admiral Vexthor was enjoying himself. He had conquered many worlds, but rarely did the natives provide such entertainment. The humans were actually trying to mount a defense. It was like watching insects try to stop a boot from crushing them. Sir, Krell reported, the humans are still broadcasting their preparations. Should we jam their communications? No, Vexthor said. I want to hear their fear. I want to know what they're planning. It will make victory sweeter. He listened to the human chatter. Orders being given. Ships moving into position. Someone was crying on one channel. Someone else was praying on another. It was chaos, just as he expected. But deep in her lunar laboratory, Dr. Katie Chen wasn't panicking. She was putting the finishing touches on humanity's secret weapon. Not a bomb or a beam weapon, but something far more subtle. How does it work exactly? Her assistant, Dr. Greg Mason, asked. Chen pulled up a diagram of the Craxian fleet network. The Craxians share thoughts when they fight. All their ships' computers are linked. It makes them incredibly coordinated, but it also means that if we can infect one ship, we can infect them all. And our virus? It's not really a virus, it's more like noise. It fills their network with garbage data. Imagine trying to think while 1,000 people scream in your ear. That's what this will do to their fleet coordination. Mason looked worried. What if they trace it back to us? They won't have time, Chen said. By the time they realize what's happening, the battle will be over. Admiral Coleman called a final meeting with his senior staff. The countdown showed 3 hours remaining. Let's review, Coleman said. Phase 1. The visible fleet engages the Craxians, Turner replied. We look disorganized, scared. We let them think they're winning. Phase 2. The cargo ships drop their disguises. The duct tape is actually adaptive armor. The welded-on weapons are integrated systems. Our panic becomes coordinated attack. Phase 3. The Mars fleet decloaks and hits them from behind. Dr. Chen's virus activates. Their fleet network collapses. And Phase 4? General Lopez smiled grimly. We board their disabled ships and show them what humans can do in close combat. The plan was dangerous. It required perfect timing. One mistake, and Earth would fall. But Coleman had faith in his people. Humans might not have the best technology, but they had something else. They had the ability to lie, to trick, to surprise. And most importantly, they had the will to do whatever it took to survive. Commander Danny White was preparing his boarding teams. 300 Marines in powered armor, ready to storm the Craxian ships once their shields fell. The Craxians were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never fought a species that evolved as persistence hunters. Listen up, White told his Marines. The Craxians expect us to be weak in hand-to-hand combat. They think because we're smaller, we're helpless. But humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being helpless. We did it by being smart, mean, and too stubborn to die. The Marines cheered. They had been training in zero gravity, in tight spaces in every possible condition. They were ready. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky. They could see the alien fleet with the naked eye, 300 points of light hanging over their world like a sword. Most didn't know about the secret fleet, the virus, or the trap. They only knew that humanity was about to fight for its survival. In New York, a young boy named Tim asked his mother, "Are we going to lose?" His mother hugged him tight. "No, sweetheart, humans don't lose, we always find a way." She didn't know how right she was. Captain Monroe received a coded message from Admiral Coleman. One word: prepare. She turned to her crew. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Across human space, the same message went out. On Mars, Rodriguez powered up his weapons. In the asteroid belt, mining ships turned on military-grade engines they weren't supposed to have. Around Jupiter, research vessels activated weapons systems that had been hidden for years. The Craxians noticed the increased activity. Vexthor found it amusing. "Look at them scramble," he said, "like a disturbed anthill. So much movement, so little purpose." His tactical officer frowned. "Admiral, some of their energy readings are unusual." "Unusual how?" "I'm not sure. It's probably just their primitive technology malfunctioning under stress." Vexthor waved a dismissive hand. "Two of them, actually." "It doesn't matter. In 2 hours we attack. Ready all weapons. I want to make this quick." But in those 2 hours, humanity was doing something the Craxians couldn't imagine. They were pretending to be weak. Every panicked transmission, every confused order, every sign of chaos was carefully scripted. Earth's defenders were putting on the greatest performance in human history. Dr. Chen sent her final message to Admiral Coleman. "The package is delivered. Activation code is ready. Just say when." Coleman looked at the countdown. 1 hour, 30 minutes. "All stations, this is Admiral Coleman. Operation Mockingbird is go." "Repeat, Mockingbird is go." Across the solar system, humanity prepared to show the Craxians why you should never underestimate the species that turned rocks into tools, fire into power, and dreams into reality. The species that looked at the stars and decided to visit them, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. The Craxians thought Earth would be their 18th conquest. They were about to learn it would be their last mistake. The countdown continued, and with each passing second, humanity's trap grew, tighter around the unsuspecting alien fleet. The final hour arrived like thunder. Admiral Vexthor stood proudly on his bridge, all 4 arms spread wide as he gave the order that would begin Earth's conquest. "All ships, begin the attack. Standard formation, crush them quickly." 300 Craxian warships moved forward in perfect synchronization. Their plasma cannons glowed with deadly energy. The human fleet, still looking scattered and confused, started to retreat toward Earth. "They're running already." Krell laughed, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "This might be our fastest victory yet." The first Craxian volley lit up space. Brilliant. Beams of plasma shot toward the human ships. But something strange happened. The human vessels scattered in what looked like complete panic, and most of the shots missed. Captain Lisa Monroe watched from Luna Base. "They took the bait." All ships begin evasive pattern alpha. The human ships started moving in ways that made no sense to the Craxians. They spun, rolled, and darted in seemingly random directions. It looked like chaos, but it was actually a carefully planned dance. Every ship knew exactly where to be. "Sir, we're having trouble targeting them," a Craxian weapons officer reported. "Their movement patterns don't match any known tactical doctrine." "It doesn't matter," Vexthor said. "Continue firing. Even random shots will hit eventually." But then Monroe's voice rang out across all channels. "Now drop disguises." The cargo haulers that the Craxians had been laughing at suddenly transformed. The outer shells fell away like old skin. The duct tape they had mocked began to shimmer and change. It wasn't tape at all, but an advanced metamaterial that had been hiding the ship's true nature. Beneath the disguises were sleek, dangerous warships. The welded-on weapons were actually integrated systems that had been camouflaged. The rust and wear that made them look old disappeared, revealing hulls made from materials reverse-engineered from alien technology. "What is this?" Vexthor shouted. "Their energy signatures are completely different." Before anyone could answer, space behind the Craxian fleet exploded with new contacts. Captain Rodriguez's stealth fleet appeared from nowhere. 60 ships armed with weapons the Craxians had never seen before. "Quantum torpedoes away," Rodriguez commanded. The torpedoes were humanity's greatest achievement. They didn't travel through normal space. Instead, they phased in and out of reality, making them impossible to stop with conventional shields. The Craxians watched in horror as the weapons passed through their defenses like ghosts. The first impacts were devastating. Craxian ships that had never been damaged in battle suddenly found themselves with holes torn through their hulls. Alarms screamed across Vexthor's bridge. "Impossible," he roared. "Our shields are impenetrable." "Not anymore," Rodriguez said, grimly, watching as his second volley found their marks. But humanity wasn't done surprising the Craxians. Dr. Katie Chen, sitting in her lunar laboratory, entered a simple command into her computer. "Execute." The virus that had been quietly spreading through the Craxian fleet network for hours suddenly activated. It was elegant in its simplicity. It didn't try to take control or destroy data. It just filled every communication channel with noise. On every Craxian ship, the coordinated battle network that linked them together collapsed. Suddenly, 300 ships that had been thinking as one were reduced to 300 confused individuals. "Sir, I've lost contact with the fleet," Vexthor's communications officer said, panic in his voice. "All channels are filled with some kind of interference. Switch to backup systems." "I can't. It's in everything. Our ships can't coordinate." Without their network, the Craxian fleet fell apart. Ships fired at the wrong targets. Some crashed into each other trying to maintain formation. Others simply stopped, their crews unable to function without the collective mind they relied on. Admiral Coleman watched from Earth. Phase 3 complete. Begin Phase 4. Launch boarding parties. 300 small assault shuttles launched from the human fleet. They were tiny, fast, and nearly impossible to hit. Commander Danny White led the first wave, his powered armor systems showing him the path to the nearest disabled Craxian cruiser. "Remember your training," White told his Marines. "The Craxians are bigger, but we're meaner. Show them what humans can do." The shuttles attached to Craxian hulls like leeches. Cutting torches burned through alien metal. Marines poured into the ships, and that's when the Craxians learned something terrible about humans. The aliens were stronger, yes, but humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had persistence, adaptability, and most importantly, they had trained for this exact scenario. In the narrow corridors of the Craxian ships, size became a disadvantage. The aliens, used to fighting in coordinated groups with their hive mind, couldn't adapt to the chaotic individual combat. The humans moved like water, flowing around obstacles, using the environment as a weapon. Private Lucy Harper, all 5 feet, 2 inches of her, took down a Craxian warrior twice her size by using its own weight against it in the zero-gravity sections of the ship. She had trained in judo since she was 6 years old. The alien never had a chance. "Engineering secured," she reported. "These guys really don't like fighting alone." All across the battlefield, similar reports came in. Human boarding parties were taking ship after ship. The Craxians, without their network to coordinate defense, couldn't mount an effective resistance. On his flagship, Vexthor watched his perfect fleet fall apart. Half his ships were disabled or boarded. The other half were firing blindly, unable to coordinate their attacks. The humans, meanwhile, moved like they shared a single mind, even though he knew they had no such ability. How? He demanded. How are they doing this? Lieutenant Jake Phillips answered him, broadcasting from Luna Base. You made a mistake, Admiral. You thought our chaos was weakness. But humans thrive in chaos. We were born in it. You rely on your network, your coordination. Take that away and you're lost. But humans? We've been fighting as individuals working together for millions of years. The battle turned into a rout. Human ships swarmed the confused Craxian fleet like wolves, bringing down larger prey. The quantum torpedoes continued to punch through shields. The boarding parties took ship after ship. Amy Foster performed what the Craxians considered an insane maneuver. She flew her fighter directly at Vexthor's flagship, spinning and rolling to avoid defensive fire. At the last second, she released an electromagnetic pulse bomb directly into their main exhaust port. The flagship's main reactor shut down. Emergency power kicked in, but it wasn't enough. The massive ship started to drift, helpless. This is Captain Carl Johnson of the battleship Texas, a new voice said over the communications. Admiral Vexthor, you have two choices. Surrender, or we'll show you what else we've been hiding. You lie, Vexthor snarled. You have shown all your tricks. Have we? Johnson asked. Did you know that every asteroid mining ship has been equipped with mass drivers? Those aren't weapons, technically. They're for moving asteroids. But if we aim them at your ships... As if to prove his point, a massive chunk of iron ore, accelerated to incredible speed, smashed into one of the remaining Craxian cruisers. The ship crumpled like paper. Or maybe you'd like to know about the virus's second stage. Dr. Chen's voice joined the communication. Right now, it's just blocking your communications. But I could make it do so much more. Would you like to see what happens when I reverse your gravity generators? Or maybe open all your airlocks at once? Vexthor looked around his bridge. His crew was terrified. They had never faced an enemy like this. Every species they had conquered had fought predictably, honorably. The humans fought like cornered animals, using every trick, every deception, every advantage they could find or create. More human ships appeared. They came from the asteroid belt, from the moons of Saturn, from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Not 60 ships or 150, but 300. Humanity had matched the Craxian fleet ship for ship, and they had done it in secret. Impossible, Vexthor said weakly. We monitored everything, we saw everything. Coleman's face appeared on the main screen. You saw what we wanted you to see. Every panicked transmission, every piece of duct tape, every sign of weakness was theater. We've been preparing for this day for 10 years. We knew someone like you would come eventually, and we knew that our only chance was to make you underestimate us. The human admiral leaned forward. You laughed at us, Vexthor. You called us primitive. But we're the species that split the atom, that reached the stars, that refused to die no matter what the universe threw at us. And now, we're the species that defeated the Craxian Empire. Around Vexthor's flagship, human vessels closed in. His tactical display showed the truth he couldn't accept. In less than an hour, his perfect fleet had been reduced to scattered, disabled wrecks. The primitive humans with their duct tape and determination had done the impossible. The war was over, and humanity had won. But the real surprise was yet to come. Admiral Vexthor's flagship drifted helpless in space. Half his bridge crew was unconscious. The other half stared at their dead screens in shock. The pride of the Craxian Empire, 300 of the galaxy's most feared warships, had been broken in less than 2 hours by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, only 30 of our ships remain operational. The humans have disabled or captured everything else. Vexthor couldn't speak. In his 800 years of life, through 17 conquered worlds, he had never experienced defeat. He had never even imagined it was possible. Captain Monroe coordinated the mopping-up operation from Luna Base. Team 7, secure the cruiser at grid reference 59. Team 12, that battleship is trying to power up weapons. Stop them. She watched with satisfaction as human forces swarmed over the broken Craxian fleet. But she also noticed something interesting. The aliens weren't fighting to the death as she'd expected. Once isolated and boarded, most surrendered quickly. Admiral Coleman, she called, you need to see this. The Craxians are giving up. All of them. Coleman studied the reports. They can't function without their hive mind. They're not cowards, they're just lost. Lieutenant Amy Foster flew her fighter in lazy circles around Vexthor's flagship. She could see inside through the holes torn by quantum torpedoes. Craxian crew members floated in zero gravity, some injured, all confused. They looked nothing like the terrifying conquerors who had arrived hours ago. This is Foster, she reported. The flagship is dead in space. I can see the bridge. Their admiral is just standing there. Commander Danny White and his Marines had taken 6 Craxian ships so far. Each boarding was easier than the last. The aliens without their network couldn't coordinate defense. They fought as individuals and not very well. It's almost sad, White said to his sergeant. They're like a body without a brain. His sergeant, a tough woman named Maria Cruz, disagreed. Don't feel too sorry for them, Commander. They came here to enslave Earth. They would have killed billions. She was right, of course, but White couldn't help noticing how young some of the Craxian soldiers looked. Take away their forearms and gray skin, and they could have been scared kids anywhere in the galaxy. Dr. Katie Chen monitored the virus's effect on the Craxian network. The data she was collecting was incredible. The aliens' technology was centuries ahead of Earth's, but their dependence on it was their weakness. Admiral, she called Coleman, I'm reading something strange. The Craxian ships are trying to send a signal, not to each other, but outward, toward their home space. A distress call? Maybe. Or maybe they're calling for reinforcements. Coleman made a quick decision. Block it, we can't fight another fleet like this. Chen's fingers flew over her keyboard. Done, but Admiral, if they have more fleets, they'll come looking when this one doesn't report back. Then we better be ready, Coleman replied. On the Craxian flagship, Vexthor finally moved. He walked slowly to his command chair and sat down, heavily. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders that wouldn't come. Without the network, he couldn't think properly. It was like trying to solve equations with half his brain missing. A human shuttle attached to his ship. He could hear cutting tools working on the hull. Soon, human Marines would storm his bridge. The thought should have filled him with rage, but he felt only emptiness. The humans breached the bridge doors. Marines in powered armor poured in, weapons raised. But they didn't fire. They saw broken, defeated beings who offered no resistance. Commander White himself entered the bridge. He looked up at Vexthor, who even sitting down was taller than a standing human. Admiral Vexthor, White said, by order of Earth Defense Command, you are under arrest for attempted genocide. Vexthor looked down at the small human. How? He asked, his translator turning clicks into words. Your ships were primitive. Your weapons were nothing. You had tape. White almost smiled. That tape? It's actually a smart material that costs more per ounce than gold. Those primitive ships? We've been building them in secret for a decade. And our weapons? Well, we borrowed some ideas from a crashed probe you guys sent our way. You learned from one probe? Humans are quick learners, Admiral. We had to be. Our world tried to kill us with ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, and predators. We survived by adapting, by learning, by never giving up. You thought that made us weak. It made us dangerous. Captain Rodriguez brought his fleet in from Mars. The 60 stealth frigates surrounded the largest remaining Craxian vessel. His voice echoed across all channels. Attention, Craxian fleet. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. Any ship that powers weapons will be destroyed. Any ship that surrenders will be treated according to the laws of war. One by one, the remaining Craxian ships powered down. It was over. But then something unexpected happened. Admiral Coleman received a message from deep space. Not from the Craxians, but from another source entirely. Admiral, his communications officer said, "We're receiving a transmission. It's from the Zalathi Confederation." The Zalathi were one of the few species that had resisted Craxian conquest. They had been fighting a losing war for 50 years. The message was simple. "Congratulations, Earth, you have done what we could not. The galaxy is watching." Coleman realized the implications immediately. They were watching the whole battle? "Yes, sir. And not just them. I'm detecting observation probes from at least 12 different species." Earth's victory wasn't just a military triumph. It was a declaration to the entire galaxy that humanity had arrived on the cosmic stage. And they had arrived with a bang. Amy Foster landed her fighter on the lunar base. As she climbed out, she saw something amazing on the monitors. All across Earth, people were celebrating. Cities that had been dark with fear were now bright with fireworks. Humanity had faced its first real test as a species, and passed. But in the brig of the Texas, Admiral Vexthor sat alone with his thoughts. The humans had offered him medical attention, food, and water. They treated him not as a monster, but as a prisoner of war. It confused him. A human guard, a young man named Eddie Liu, brought him a meal. "Why?" Vexthor asked. "We came to destroy. You why treat us with kindness?" Liu shrugged. "It's what humans do. We can be brutal in war, but we try to be decent in victory. Besides, you're not our enemy anymore, you're just someone who made a mistake. A mistake that cost me everything. Maybe. Or maybe it taught you something. My grandmother used to say that the best lessons come from the worst failures." Vexthor thought about that as Liu left. These humans were unlike any species he had encountered. They could be savage and kind, brilliant and foolish, organized and chaotic, all at the same time. They were contradictions made flesh. Dr. Chen made another discovery. The Craxian network wasn't completely destroyed, just disrupted. With work, it could be restored. But more importantly, she could learn from it. "Admiral Coleman," she reported, "I think I can adapt their network technology for human use. Not a hive mind, but something else. A way for our ships to share data instantly without losing individual thought." "Do it," Coleman ordered. "We need every advantage we can get." As Earth's sun set on the day of first contact, humanity had changed, forever. They were no longer alone in the universe. They were no longer safe behind the shield of ignorance. But they were also no longer helpless. Captain Monroe stood on the lunar surface in her environmental suit, looking up at the disabled Craxian fleet. Earth's first space battle was over, but she knew it was just the beginning. The galaxy now knew about humanity. Some would come as friends, others as enemies. "Let them come," she said to herself. "We'll be ready." The hunter had become the hunted, and the hunted had won. But the real test was what humanity would do with their victory. 6 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. Earth was different now. The planet that had once looked up at the stars in wonder now looked up with purpose. Humanity had taken its place in the galactic community, not as subjects or slaves, but as victors. Admiral Vexthor stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall in New York City. He wore simple clothes instead of his military uniform. His forearms were unbound, showing that Earth trusted him not to cause trouble. Around him sat representatives from Earth's nations, but also ambassadors from 20 different alien species, who had come to see the humans who had done the impossible. "Tell us," the Secretary General asked, "what have you learned from your time with us?" Vexthor had spent 6 months on Earth as part of his sentence, not in a cell, but living among humans, learning about them. He had worked on a farm in Iowa, taught mathematics at a school in Japan, and even helped rebuild homes destroyed by a hurricane in Florida. "I learned," Vexthor began, his translator making his clicks into words, "that I understood nothing about strength. The Craxian Empire measured strength by the size of our ships, the power of our weapons, but humans showed me that real strength comes from something else." He paused, remembering. "I watched an elderly human woman lift a car to save a child trapped beneath it. Impossible by her body's limits, Yet she did it. I saw humans risk their lives to save strangers during that hurricane. I watched your species argue and fight among yourselves, then unite instantly when faced with external threat. The room was silent. Everyone wanted to hear what the former conqueror had to say. You call it the human spirit. We have no word for it in our language. It is the ability to do what cannot be done, to survive what cannot be survived, to win when winning is impossible. And now I understand why you defeated us. Admiral Coleman, now promoted to Fleet Admiral of the new Earth Defense Force, smiled slightly. He had argued for treating the Craxian prisoners well, and it had paid off. Many of them, like Vexthor, had become advocates for peace with Earth. Captain Lisa Monroe, also promoted, commanded Earth's first true warship, the Defiance. It was built using a combination of human engineering and adapted Craxian technology. She was currently hosting a delegation from the Zalathi Confederation, who had come to form an alliance with Earth. Your victory over the Craxians has inspired resistance movements in 7 conquered systems, the Zalathi ambassador said. She was a tall, blue-skinned being with 6 eyes. The Empire is crumbling, all because you showed it could be beaten. We didn't do it alone, Monroe replied. We learned from every species we could. Your stealth technology, Craxian power systems, Altarian armor composites. Humans are good at taking the best from everything and making it better. Dr. Katie Chen had become Earth's leading expert on alien technology. Her virus had been studied by scientists across the galaxy. But she had done something even more important. She had figured out how to give humanity its own version of the Craxian network. It's not a hive mind, she explained to a group of alien scientists. Each human ship maintains complete independence, but they can share information instantly. Think of it as controlled chaos. Each captain makes their own decisions, but with perfect knowledge of what their allies are doing. The alien scientists were amazed. Every other species had tried to copy the Craxian hive mind exactly. Only humans had thought to keep the chaos that made them unique while adding the coordination that made them effective. Captain Paul Rodriguez now commanded the Mars Defense Fleet. Earth had gone from having no real space force to having 300 combat-ready vessels in 6 months. The ships still looked ugly by galactic standards, but no one laughed at them anymore. The secret, Rodriguez told new pilots, is to never fight the way they expect. Every species has their way of war. The Craxians use coordination. The Zalathi use stealth. The Altarians use brute force. Humans, we use everything and we make it up as we go along. Amy Foster had become Earth's most famous pilot. The story of her flying into the Craxian flagship's exhaust port had spread across the galaxy. She now taught at the new Space Combat Academy on the Moon. People ask me if I was scared, she told her students. Of course I was scared. But being human means doing what needs to be done, scared or not. Fear keeps you sharp. Use it. Commander Danny White led Earth's Rapid Response Force. His Marines had become legendary for their ability to board and capture enemy vessels. Several species had asked for human military advisors, wanting to learn their techniques. The key to boarding operations, White explained to a group of Zalathi commanders, is controlled aggression. Be violent enough to win, but disciplined enough to stop when you've won. That's what separates soldiers from barbarians. But the biggest change was on Earth itself. Humanity had united like never before. Old conflicts seemed petty in the face of the galactic community. Resources that had once gone to fighting each other now went to building defenses and exploring space. In a small town in Ohio, a 10-year-old boy named Kevin showed his class a model of a human starship. My dad helped build the real one, he said proudly. He says humans are going to explore the whole galaxy. His teacher, Mrs. Brown, smiled. That's right, Kevin. And maybe one day you'll be out there too. The boy's eyes lit up. That was the real change. Human children no longer dreamed just of being doctors or athletes or artists. They dreamed of the stars. Back at the UN, Vexthor continued his speech. The Craxian Empire is ending, not in conquest by another empire, but in something else. The species we conquered are free. They look to Earth for leadership not because you demand it, but because you earned it. You showed the galaxy that might does not make right. That the smallest species can defeat the largest empire if they have the will. He looked directly at Admiral Coleman. I came here to laugh at you. Now I stand with you. Because I've learned that when humans laugh, it's not cruel mockery. It's joy. It's the sound of a species that finds happiness even in darkness. Coleman stood up. Admiral Vexthor, Earth offers you a choice. Return to your people as our ambassador, or stay here, as an advisor to our fleet. Either way, you're no longer our prisoner, you're our friend. The room erupted in applause. Even the alien ambassadors joined in, though some had to be taught how to clap. Vexthor's mandibles clicked, and what he had learned was his version of a smile. I choose to stay. There is still much to learn from humanity, and perhaps much to teach. Later that day, a message arrived from the Galactic Council, the governing body of the civilized galaxy. Earth had been offered full membership, skipping the usual centuries-long waiting period. The message read, the species of Earth have proven themselves worthy of membership through courage, innovation, and mercy. They defeated a superior force not through superior technology, but through superior spirit. The galaxy welcomes humanity. As the sun set over New York, Vexthor stood on the observation deck of the UN building with Admiral Coleman. They watched, human and alien ships flying together in the sky, a sight that would have been impossible just a year ago. Do you regret what happened? Coleman asked. No, Vexthor replied. My defeat was the greatest gift your species could have given me. It taught me humility. It taught me that there are different kinds of strength. And it taught me about hope. Hope? Yes. The Craxian Empire conquered through fear. But fear only lasts as long as strength does. Hope, though. Hope can survive anything. Your species proved that. Coleman nodded. We have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Vexthor's translator struggled with that for a moment. Then he made the clicking sound of laughter. Real laughter, not mockery. I don't fully understand your sayings yet, he admitted. But I'm beginning to appreciate them. A young girl ran up to them, no more than 7 years old. She looked up at Vexthor without fear. Mr. Alien, she said. My mom says you tried to hurt Earth, is that true? Coleman started to intervene, but Vexthor raised one of his hands to stop him. He knelt down to the girl's level, though he was still taller than her. Yes, he said simply. I did try to hurt Earth. It was wrong. Did you say sorry? I'm trying. To every day. The girl thought about this, then nodded. Okay. Want to see my drawing? It's you and Admiral Coleman being friends. She held up a crayon drawing of a four-armed figure and a human holding hands. Or in Vexthor's case, holding one of 4 hands. It's beautiful, Vexthor said, and meant it. As the girl ran back to her mother, Coleman chuckled. Kids, they make it all seem so simple. Perhaps it is, Vexthor replied. Perhaps your children understand something we adults forget. That today's enemy can be tomorrow's friend, if you're brave enough to try. The first day of Earth's membership in the Galactic Council arrived. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered to welcome humanity officially. The ceremony was held on the moon, in a new dome built specifically for the occasion. Captain Monroe gave the acceptance speech. Humanity accepts membership in the Galactic Council with humility and determination. We are new to the stars, but we are old in spirit. We bring with us our curiosity, our creativity, and our conviction that anything is possible if you're willing to work for it. She paused, looking at the assembled aliens. We also bring our promise.